Welcome everyone, I'm Coach Ratner. Today we are talking about my new book called Never Feel Loved Again, Symptoms and Strategies to Cure Low Self-Esteem. And the reason why I wrote this book was because there was a report in 2021, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, came out with a report and said that they interviewed 17,000 teenage girls, 2021, 17,000. And they said that about 1 in 3 seriously considered attempting suicide. 1 out of 3. That's crazy, right? And if they did for boys, half that much, which means you've got a room full of young teenage boys here, 5 of them would be had considered suicide. That number is astounding. Now, what is low self-esteem? What is self-esteem? What is it? Self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. You can have high self-esteem, you feel great about yourself, who you are as a person, you're happy with yourself no matter what goes on, or you can have low self-esteem, which is what a lot of us go through in our lives, and it's your opinion of yourself. But it's not real. That opinion of yourself is just how you view yourself. The reason why I had a lot of pleasure in writing this class because I've gone through some of these issues myself. You know, I've had low self-esteem at various times in my life. And it starts for almost everybody when I would say you start going through puberty. You know, when I was in 3rd and 4th grade, my mom would ask me to put I grew up in Virginia, and it was cold in the morning at the bus stop, especially at 6:30 in the morning. My mom would say, put a wool hat on your head, you're gonna catch a cold. At 3rd grade, no problem, I put it on, I go to the bus stop. Sometime around 5th, 6th, or 7th grade, I'm like, no mom, I'm not gonna wear the hat, I'm gonna look like a geek in front of other people. And that is when I put myself in a prison, because the greatest prison you can put yourself in is worrying about what other people think about you. And that's what I did, because I was worried about what the 8th grade girls would think about me at the bus stop. So I wouldn't wear a hat. And that's, I think, really when it starts. Now, we learned something in the Bible that really darkness was there before the creation of the universe. It said there was darkness upon the depths of the water, and then God created light, which means darkness does not exist. What is darkness? It's an absence of light. Black is not a color. Black is just no light. If I put shades in this room to cover up all the windows, it'll be completely dark. But if I light one little candle, what happens? The whole room lights up. So low self-esteem doesn't exist. It's just a figment of your imagination. And what I tend to do is to light up, just basically bring light into your life. That's all I have to do is bring light into your life. And when you bring light into your life, your whole soul will light up and your emotion will be much happier. We're just like a raw diamond. If you ever see a raw diamond that comes out of the ground, it's black, it has inclusions, it's disgusting looking, and you take it to a diamond cutter, and he shapes it and makes these, the way he shapes it to allow the light into the diamond, so that diamond, when you see a beautiful diamond, it's gorgeous. Why? Because it allows the light to permeate it, which that light goes back out into the world. And that's what I want to do with my students, with you today. I want to shape you in a way you can allow the light of God into your life, so you can shine that light back out to the world, and you can leave this class a much happier person. So, what are some symptoms of low self-esteem? One is comparing yourself to others. We're always comparing ourselves to others. You're never happy with your own accomplishments, and there's always going to be someone better than you. I have a story. When I was in high school, I used to play a lot of piano. I was very, very good. I played a lot of piano. I played Gershwin, Rachmaninoff, Billy Joel, Elton John. And I decided sometime in high school that I wanted to become a professional. I wanted to play on Broadway. I wanted to play Broadway musicals. And I was going to apply to the 2 big music schools that in that time. One was called Oberlin in Ohio, and the other was called Juilliard School of Music in New York. Have you heard of that one? Juilliard. There was a TV show back in the 80s called Fame. Fame. I want to live forever. I want to learn how to fly high. It was a very popular show. It was based on this music school in New York City. They had dancers, they had singers, it was very popular. And I wanted to go to the Fame. And I was going to apply because everyone told me how good I was on the piano. And in my social circle, in my school, my shul, my friends, my family, I was the best they'd ever seen. And so I thought I was great. Until one week I went to an all-county chorus festival in Fairfax County, Virginia. And I went as a baritone singer. But I walked into this room full of people playing pianos. And what I saw blew my mind. Here I am thinking, I'm pretty cool. I'm good. I know how to play. I walked into this room and I saw people playing music much better than me. They were all like 13-year-old Korean girls, but they were unbelievable. They were amazing. They could play play by ear. I couldn't play by ear. I could read music, and within like 30 seconds to a minute, I could play a song pretty good, but I had the music. They could play by ear. They could change key on demand. I couldn't change key on demand. I could figure it out after some time. They were geniuses. And the idea of me going to Oberlin or Juilliard School of Music completely left my mind. I did not apply at all. I learned two very valuable lessons. One is do not listen to negative thoughts. And you who give those negative thoughts? Yourself or people. I can't believe, and I look back at my life and I learned another lesson. You don't have to be the best at something in order to succeed. I didn't have to be the best piano player to succeed in piano. Okay, maybe I'm not going to play for the National Symphony Orchestra. Maybe I didn't have those skills, but I had other skills. I could have written music. I could have played on Broadway. Whatever I could have done, I could have done something. I didn't give myself a chance because I compared myself to other people. And that is a symptom of low self-esteem. And basically, no matter how good you are at something, someone is eventually going to become better than you. You should always be striving to be better at whatever you do, but just realize that don't let it bring you down. You don't have to be the best at something in order to succeed. And it keeps people from starting, and they procrastinate in life. Another symptom of low self-esteem is avoiding social interaction. Now, there's a fine line here. I used to go to parties when I was in college. I used to go to keg parties, and it was Friday and Saturday nights, and there was always one or two guys in my dorm who wouldn't go. And I go to these guys like, why aren't you going to the party? And like, I'm going to sit back and read a book. I'm like, really? What a loser. Like, and that's my perception. Because my perception from my personality is you should go out and drink and have a good time. Of course, I wasn't raised in a religious home, so I wasn't observant then. I wasn't doing Shabbat dinners on Friday night then. But looking back, they could have been introverts. And they could have gotten pleasure from sitting at home and reading a book. Now there's a fine line. From people that want to sit home and read a book versus people who are terrified out of their mind about going to a social situation. Because they think, oh, people want to think of me, no one's going to like me, they don't like my pimple on my nose, or my face, they think I'm ugly, no one's going to talk to me. And that is low self-esteem, avoiding social interaction. Like I said, it's a fine line. There are many people like my wife, happy being at home at night, doesn't like to go out. And some people want to go out and socialize. But if you don't want to go out because you're terrified, that is low self-esteem. You might have known a guy in high school or college who was like the party guy. He'd come in, he'd do the beer bongs, loud, obnoxious. He'd try any drug there was. And he was like considered the guy who was like, oh, that guy's a social butterfly. When in reality, he was compensating for the fact that he had low self-esteem. Someone with strong self-esteem doesn't have to be the center of attention. They're happy in their own skin. And that's avoiding social interaction. Self-destructive behaviors. I had a friend of mine, a guy I was learning with. He was in his 60s, and he came to my house on a Friday night for a Shabbat dinner. And the next morning, that night he goes home and he found out his son died. His 19-year-old son had died in a car accident. He was driving high speeds and hit a tree. Now, why do things like this happen? I believe when people have low self-esteem and they do things that are dangerous, that are life-threatening, it could just because they don't care about dying. There's a fine line between people who are thrill seekers and want to go bungee jumping or jumping out of airplanes or riding big waves in Hawaii. There's a fine line between someone who's a thrill seeker, because a thrill is when you do something where if you make the tiniest mistake, you die. Versus people who do these things, they don't care if they're going to die. So when you're driving at high speeds at 2 o'clock in the morning down the highway, it could be because you like the thrill of it, or deep down in your soul, in your subconscious, you don't care if you're going to die. And that's unfortunately with a lot of teenagers. I had a cousin who died in a car crash. I didn't know him, but my family said that he, even though it was considered a car crash, he was probably committed suicide. So when you do dangerous behaviors, it could be a symptom of low self-esteem. Poor relationships. Imagine I have a guy for you. I have a guy for you. Are you single?
Yeah.
I got a guy for you. He doesn't love himself very much. Do you want to go out with him? No. Probably not. No, you don't want to, right? Who wants to date someone who doesn't love themselves? and this is a prerequisite. Tomorrow I'm going to give my class on sunscreen love. You must love yourself before you can love somebody else. People who don't love themselves and think, oh, if I just get married and find a guy or a girl, they'll make me happy and I'll be happy. But in reality, it doesn't work out very well. It doesn't. You have to love yourself before you can love somebody else and be happy with who you are. I was in my 30s and I didn't meet my wife until I was 34. And I decided, you know what? I'm just going to be happy being single and enjoy life. And that is when I allowed myself to open my heart up to allow someone into my life. You have to be happy with who you are as a person before you can be in a successful relationship. Okay, now we're going to talk about the first part of my book is based on symptoms. There's 14 different symptoms. Where a lot of them we're not getting into, like fake confidence, bull nose rings, plastic surgery, criticizing other people, gossip, a whole bunch of other different ways in which you are symptoms of low self-esteem. But I want to get into the middle part of the book, which are ways in which you may contribute low self-esteem to other people. And the reason why I put this in the book, and I put this in the class, because when you have the ability to understand how you make other people feel, you'll be more cognizant of your own feelings. And you'll do things to make yourself happy. The first one is called name dropping. Name dropping is when you basically drop someone's name who's popular or famous in order to make yourself look better in the eyes of somebody else. And it could be because, I remember when when I started getting involved Jewishly, the Maccabees came out. I don't know what year it was, 2011 or 12. You guys heard of the Maccabees? And I remember at that point in time, everyone had to have some sort of association with the Maccabees. Oh, the Maccabees, are you my brother's girlfriend's uncle's son's friend? No, it's the Maccabees. Like everyone had to have some sort of, because it made you feel good where you work. You happen to know someone who's popular. And we do it all the time. But the worst thing, I used to name drop all the time, I don't do it anymore. The worst thing is that, oh, you don't know so-and-so? You don't know who so-and-so is. Like, someone comes to you like, oh, you don't know Rabbi Goldberg? Oh my gosh, everyone knows Rabbi Goldberg. And it makes you feel bad because you should know them, and you don't know them, it makes you like, oh, what am I, a loser? And you have to realize that not everyone is in the same social circle. Not everyone follows and watches the same thing. So I hate when people do that to me. I've had people do me all the time. And they'll start talking to me. They'll like, oh yeah, my friend David. And I'm like, who's David? I'm like, oh, you don't know David? Everyone knows David. Like, don't make me feel like an idiot. And be aware when you're doing things like this, like the name drop and you don't know so-and-so. There's something called the humble brag. What's the humble brag? The humble brag is when you say something in order to make yourself feel humble, but you're doing it in a way to basically brag. So for example, imagine a young lady comes off a plane and she hasn't slept, she took a red eye, and she goes to a bar or whatever, and she says, oh my gosh, I haven't showered in 2 days, I haven't slept, and guys keep hitting on me. Right? That's a humble brag. Or like, oh my gosh, I was stuck in traffic. Thank God, a helicopter came and got me. Or, I was in London and I spilled coffee in my soup. Thank God there was an Armani store and they replaced my suit for me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Something bad happens to you, you say it in a way that makes it. I did it when I first got here to Israel. I was complaining about the fact that I didn't have what I had in America. In America, you had a pool, and I would say these things I would say the things that I had, and I don't have them here. And in a way, I was trying to be humble, but I was really bragging. And I caught myself. Because I don't want to make people feel bad. I want when people interact with me, I lift them up, don't bring them down. Because when you lift people up, when you let the light go into your body, into your soul, and you shine that light out to the world, you can change the world. You could change the world from interactions you have with people. I see it all the time in my life now. I spoke this past week in Rockville, Maryland. And, people came to Coach, you said something to me last year, like, it's unbelievable, I'm doing this now. Like, you don't know how you can affect other people. And when you make people feel good and help affect other people, you'll feel good about yourself. And the last of the ways in which you may contribute to low self-esteem is what I call posting on social media. I get a lot of pushback on this. Like, why should I care about what other people post? You don't have to. You can do what you want. But I like to be aware of other people's feelings. And the reason why I put this in there, I have a good friend who was traveling to Paris with his family. And every single day he posted pictures of this beautiful family, of his kids at these fancy French restaurants. Every single day. And I said, it's great. I thought to myself, it's great. I'm happy for you. It's awesome. You should share with the world. But you know what? You don't realize that when I have 1,800 friends on my Facebook page. Do you think I know 1,800 people? There's not a chance. I don't know who these people are. You can friend me right now. I have no idea who you are. So when I'm posting something, I have to be cognizant of other people's feelings. What this really bothers me is what I call the gender reveal, the gender reveals. This is when someone has a baby, right? And they post, we're gonna have a boy, and you see the balloons flying, the jets flying overhead with blue smoke, and they have a catered food, like, we're having a boy, it's great, mazel tov. How many people can't have babies? How many people have tried for years to have a baby? It's great you're having a baby, mazel tov. Share it with your family and friends. You don't have to share it with the entire world. When I moved to Israel a number of years ago, we started what I call the Ratner Israel chat. And so it's my close family and my close friends. So when I post on there, I know it's only going to my family and friends, no one else. I post pictures of my son getting an army uniform. I post pictures of someone graduating or a birthday party, whatever. I post pictures. But I'm not sharing with the world. I don't need the world to know all my stuff. I just don't. And when you're cognizant of other people's feelings, you'll be more cognizant of your own feelings. People post when they get into a college. They have what's called they open their envelopes from different colleges. Oh, I got into Harvard, mazel tov. Well, not everyone can get into Harvard. It's great for you. And people will say, well, why should I be worried about what other people feel? You don't have to. But the reason why I'm giving this class is because I want you to feel good about yourself. I want you to have positive self-esteem. And I want you to go through what I went through. This is why I want to turn my mess into my message. So you don't have to go through life having low self-esteem. You need to be happy with internal satisfaction without external validation. You should not always be looking for validation from other people. Which brings us to strategies to cure low self-esteem. Protect your happiness. Just like, when you get married, there's things that men don't do. Not all of them. Going to a strip club, going out with your girlfriends that maybe you had when you were single. People ask me, can I be friends with, girls ask me, can I be friends with guys? You ever asked this question before? Can I be friends with the guys? And as guys, your answer is going to be, unless you're like completely lying to yourself, no, because every guy wants to sleep with you. That's the way it works. I mean, that's guys don't, you know what I'm talking about? Like, at least in the regular world, guys who are friends with a girl, they all want to sleep with them. And like, can I be friends? And of course, there's always this tension between the relationship. So no, you can't be friends with girls, especially if you're married, obviously. I'm going to tell you a little story. There's a guy named Chaim Kreisworth. He was a young man in the Holocaust. And he encountered an older man. And the man says, I'm about to die. My days are numbered here. He goes, I have a lot of money in a Swiss bank account. I want you to find my kids, my grandkids, and make sure you made them memorize the account number and the password. So many years later, Chaim Kreisworth was in Jerusalem, and he was learning. He was a teacher, a rabbi, and he was learning in yeshiva. And he was learning with a student. And as it turned out, the student looked familiar to him. He goes, are you a Kreisworth? He goes, yes. He says, do you know about your grandfather? And he explained to him how his grandfather died in the gas chambers. And he was taken aback. He goes, do you realize that I met your grandfather and that you have a lot of money? He goes, can you get to Switzerland? He goes, no. So he raised enough money for this boy to get to Switzerland, and he went to the bank. And this boy found out, who didn't have any money, that with interest over time, he had $30 million. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine one day being a student with no money and then finding out you have $30 million? The question you have to ask yourself is, when did he become rich? Was it when he was born? When he discovered $30 million? Was it when he actually took the money? When was it? My rabbi always says to me, imagine you buy a lottery ticket. Sunday morning, you go look in the newspaper to see the winning lottery number. You look it up online. And you find out you won a $150 million lottery. How do you feel? Feel amazing, right? But what changed? Nothing changed. Sunday morning, you have the same bank account, everything's the same. Nothing's changed, except your vision of the future. It's all in your mind. Of course, that future looks bright when you have $150 million. But in reality, nothing's changed that day. Just your vision of the future. So if you bring some light into your life, you can be much happier. So we don't put a fence around your happiness. Just like in Pirkei Avos, it says, put a fence around the Torah. We protect things that are precious to us. We protect our marriage. We protect our children with fences. We protect our children making sure that they don't hang around the wrong people. And one thing you need to protect is your happiness. I never really thought about this. Put a fence around my happiness. I'm in charge of it. No one else is. I do things that I want to do, and I don't do things I don't want to do. I know I just got invited to another wedding today, and people in Jerusalem, a lot of people get married all the time. And I told my wife, it's great to go to a wedding. It's a mitzvah to celebrate. But I don't like eating dinner at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. It's ridiculous. I can't do this all the time. So I tell people, can you go to my wedding? I'm like, yeah, I'll go to the chuppah. I'll go to the ceremony, and I'm going home. Why? Because the rest of it doesn't make me happy. I it's too much for me. My daughters jokingly say, Abba, you're going to go to our wedding? No, I'm only going to your chuppah. But no, of course I'm going to go to their party. But I'm make it at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, so I don't have to stay up late. It's funny, I got married at noon. When my parents got married at noon, I'm like, why am I going to get married? And I'm so happy, because I was by 5, 6 o'clock, I was done. I actually went to my in-laws' house after the wedding, and we had a little snack. It was nice. It wasn't so late. Protect your happiness. First thing you have to do is understand and forgive the source of your low self-esteem. Whatever is making you feel bad, if it's your parents, if it's your upbringing, if it's a teacher maybe, or you got an ex-boyfriend, whatever it is, you need to forgive the source. Because you can't forgive the source, you're never going to move forward in life. When you hold in anger, you hold in resentment, it keeps you from growing as a person. Imagine a high school teacher takes a cup of water and holds it out and say, how much does this weigh? And the students respond, 4 ounces, 6 ounces. And the teacher says, really, the weight means nothing. Because right now it's light, I can hold it. But if I hold it for an hour, it starts to get uncomfortable. If I hold it for a day, I start to be in pain. Hold it for a week, I'm excruciating pain. The longer you hold something in, the more painful it is in life. And if you cannot move forward until you forgive, my kid says to me, the 3 hardest things to say: I forgive you, I'm sorry, and Worcestershire sauce. The 3 hardest things to say. Worcestershire sauce. Very difficult. No, it's hard to say it's hard to say I forgive you. It's hard to say I'm sorry. It's hard to say I love you. I'm coaching so many guys now who are having such a hard time opening up and becoming vulnerable. I coached a guy here at Aish. He was 35, and he's very sweet, but not the most socially adept guy. He wasn't awkward, but just not great. And he went out on a date with this one girl from B'nai Brak, and he said, Coach, I love this girl, I want to marry her. He goes, how do I get her? How do I get her? And so I said, she has to feel like you're vulnerable and engaged with her, engaged emotionally. So we practiced. I said, and I don't think a lot of people do this. And I said, we're going to practice this. On the second date, when you're talking to her, you're going to say, I really like you, and smile. And he couldn't do it. He had a hard time. Practice 20, 30 times. A second day, practice, I really like you. He was done. He got married after 5, 6 dates. Engaged. Not married, but engaged. Why? Because he showed that his heart was open and allowed himself to be vulnerable. As guys, a lot of us have a hard time doing that. But that's what women want. Women want a guy that listens to them and understands them and is open enough to let their feelings be shown and be vulnerable. So you have to forgive the source. Number 2, control your exposure. If it makes you feel bad, don't do it. If going on social media makes you feel bad, you shouldn't go on. Just like I don't want to go to wedding parties. It doesn't make me feel bad. It's just not something I really want to do. I protect my happiness. You need to be the gatekeeper of your brain. If you have a flower garden, you put a flower in the garden, you see the flowers wilting. Are you going to blame the seed company? Hey, I'm going to call the seed company, it's the seeds that's bad. No, you're going to check the environment, the soil, the water, the sunlight. Check what's around you, because that affects your self-esteem. The 2 biggest decisions you're going to make in your life, number 1, who you're going to marry, and number 2, where you're going to live. Because where you're going to live is your community. It affects how you are. And this is why it's very important to be into a community that's growth-oriented. You know, there are guys who are sitting on Madison Avenue, New York City. These are marketing guys, and they're sitting there trying to make you feel bad. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make you, when they bombard you with advertising on social media and TV and newspapers and magazines, they're trying to make you feel bad. So you spend money on what they're selling you. Oh my gosh, I feel bad. I need to have that. There's so many things now people can buy. And you have to understand, when you're sitting in the checkout line at the grocery store and you see the Mademoiselle magazines and GQ and Elle and whatever these, and they're saying you're not pretty unless you have this makeup, have this body. You have to think for yourself. You know, it's funny, it's amazing that tan is in. Where it used to be, if you watched the movie Titanic, right, and the women were walking around in the early 1900s, parasols, covered up, they were dressed modestly, they had their skin covered. Why? Because if you were pasty white, you were considered beautiful. And if you're tan, you're considered white trash because it means you worked in the railroads or worked outside in the farms. Isn't that crazy? And now, if you're white, it means you can't afford to fly your private jet down to Barbados. Right? And if you're tan, it means that you're like, you don't work anymore because you're so rich. It's amazing how our views on life change. And it used to be being, I don't say chunky or being, bulky, chunky, heavy was considered sexy, and being skinny was considered being poor, and no one wanted to date you. Why? Because you were poor and couldn't eat. And if you were chunky, that means you could have a lot of children much easier, and that means you would come from the upper echelon of society. When did our vision in life change? It's funny, I haven't gotten this, but the word pink used to be a boy's color. Until someday, some department store said pink is now girls and blue is boys. We didn't decide that for ourselves. Someone else made that decision. What's that movie where the girl, she works for this magazine in New York City, and it's a fashion magazine, and this woman says, I determine what you wear. Even though you go buy it at Marshall's or TJ Maxx, that color was decided by me 5-6 years earlier. And just makes its way from the expensive stores from Saks Fifth Avenue and makes its way down to Marshalls and TJ Maxx. That's decided by her, right? We want to think for ourselves. We want to open our brains up like, does this make me feel good? Does this make me happy or not? So you have to control your exposure. Define your core values. Do what's important to you and don't do what's not important to you, which means, what are your core values? I know if you're young in your early 20s, it's hard to know what your core values are. But you gotta have something to base it on, your life on. I use my core values, I use the word great. Great as an acronym. And I live with the G stands for gratitude. I'm gratitude, everything happens to me, the good and the bad, I thank God. Because the Gemara says, for everything that bad happens to you, something good is gonna come from it. I know it's a high level, I mean, you can thank God, okay, whatever. You got a new job, thank God for the new job. You won the lottery, thank God. I broke my foot. You know what? You want to live a high level of having strong self-esteem? You thank God for breaking your foot. Because you don't know what's going to come from it. Something good's going to come from it. So that's gratitude. R is responsibility. Take responsibility for the world. Basically, the word responsibility stands for respond to your ability. You have ability to do great things. God didn't put you here for nothing. God put you here for a purpose. Maybe you don't know your purpose, but at least knowing how your purpose, you go through life trying to search for your purpose. And he put you here to do great things. And that is taking responsibility for the world. I have a chapter in one of my books called Who's They? Because there's always people like, oh yeah, they should they should do this. They should get more water. They should have a coffee machine. They should have more classes. Who's they? And when you're saying who's they, you're the they. You're the one that's in charge now. There's a mission that says, when there is no man, be the man. When you see a need for the world, that means you're there to help do it, to help change the world. Because it's your job to change the world, don't let the world change you. And we don't put a filter on our brain. We let things that make us unhappy. We struggle in life when we're not happy. It's hard to have a relationship. It's hard to get a job. Imagine going for a job, you're like, yeah, no one's going to hire someone who's not happy. I teach my kids this, wherever you do in life, people like to be around people that they enjoy being around, that are happy. And I tell my kids, even when you go to school, if you're, failing, but the teacher likes you, guess what they're going to do? They're going to make sure that they're going to go extra time out of their way to make sure you don't fail. My son, thank God he's a great student. He was in school, and he got a 60 on a test. It usually gets 90s and 100s. And the teacher said, and I happened to be out of town, so maybe he was sad, I don't know. And so the teacher said, you've been tired this week, I know you don't normally get 60s. He said, so what he did is he gave him an oral test, because he knows material, and my son did great on the oral test. He goes, I'm giving you a 90. Because he likes my son. Now, if he didn't like my son, he wouldn't go make that effort. Just like if you're in a job, and people make excuses all the time when they get fired. They'll say, oh, I lost my job because of this, this, and this. You know why they lost your job? They didn't like you. And that was just an excuse to fire you. But if they liked you, and they enjoyed your company, and you're a happy person, we just, unfortunately, our cleaning lady is going back to Sri Lanka. And I told her, I said, I love her being in my house. I mean, who likes having cleaning ladies in their house? I don't like it. But her, she was amazing. She was happy. She always smiled. It was funny when my kids were sleeping, and she'd come in the morning if my kids were sleeping in late they didn't have school that day. She'd go in the room, and she'd clean the room, and she'd tuck them in. she'd tuck them in. She was amazing. She'd do their hair for them. And I loved her. I'm sad to lose her, but the reason why I loved her so much, because she was a happy person. And she made me happy. So we have gratitude, we have responsibility. The E stands for end game. It means, what are you living your life for? And I know it's a little tough, but what do you want people to say at your funeral? Stephen Covey says in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, start with the end game in mind. What do I want people to say when I die? Don't want them to say, oh, he had a fancy car. I was at a funeral once, and this is really, one of the reasons I started writing a lot, I was at a funeral, and this happened to be for this boy that died in the car crash. It was 19 or 20 years old. I'm at the funeral, and all people talked about was how this kid skateboarded. How he brought skateboarding back, he was a great skateboarder. They couldn't say anything else about him. I was disgusted. I couldn't believe it. That's your life? You skateboarded? You didn't help people? You weren't kind? You didn't do good, whatever it was. I said, I don't want that to be remembered. I don't want people to say, oh yeah, he played piano really good. I don't want that. I want more in my life. And so that's endgame. And the A is awesome. Know that you are already awesome. The day you were born was the day that God decided the world could not go on without you. You're awesome. You're amazing people. The fact you're in this class means you're in the highest levels of personal growth. You just coming to want to hear a class on personal growth, put you at the upper echelon. It doesn't mean anything else, but it still means that you're making the effort to become great in life. And the last T is transformation. Because the greatest transformation you'll make in life is when you believe in yourself as much as God believes in you. Because God put you here. He believes in you. And we have to transform ourselves from having low self-esteem to having high self-esteem. I used to have low self-esteem. And now I'm pretty happy. I mean, I'm always happy. People say, how are you happy? I don't know. I'm just happy. I've been working on myself. I filter my brain. If it doesn't make me unhappy, when I flew back from America yesterday, there's movies on the plane. And I don't watch movies on the plane. I think the only one I watched this year was the Tom Cruise one, Top Gun or Maverick. Because I used to love the old Top Gun movie. And so I hadn't seen the new one. I've watched it. The acting wasn't that good, but the scenes were great, the jet fighting scenes. Anyway, but I started to watch different movies, and if it's violent, I can't watch it. I can't watch these movies anymore, because it just makes me unhappy to see violence. So I don't watch them. So that's great. That's my core values: gratitude, responsibility, endgame, awesome, and transformation. Make your list of attributes. If you're unhappy with yourself, make a list of all the things you have in your life that money can't buy. This way you can't make yourself say, well, that guy's got that money, that guy can do that, he has that. Make a list of what you have in your life that money can't buy. Do you have 2 eyes? Do you have 2 legs? We take it for granted until we're sick. And then it's amazing. We are always desiring the car, the house, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the husband and wife, until we get sick, and there's only one thing we want when we're sick. And that's to be healthy. Maybe since I've gone through cancer and I've had to deal with that, maybe that's changed my perspective a little bit. But that was 10 years ago. I'm still dealing with it, but I do not want to go. I want people, when I die, that guy was always happy. That guy always had gratitude. And that's a good way to be remembered. Okay. The last of this, I'm going to give you, there's a lot more in this book as far as these strategies and symptoms of low self-esteem. There's list of rejection therapy, set a new goal for yourself, make life fun, synchronize with others. Synchronize with others is basically join a chorus or join something where you're needed. You're part of the group. Going to a yoga class is not the same because you don't show up to the yoga class. They still go on. But being part of something, for me, teaching essentials here is a major thing. Because I have to come. If I'm not here, there's no class. So make yourself needed somewhere. I used to be in the chorus. I used to play in the band. And of course, I was in the chamber choirs. We had only 20 singers, and I was one of the 4 bass singers. So I have to be there. If I'm not there, they have to replace me. Because it's all off. It's not only 20 singers. Your voice is very important. Exercise. Exercise is one of the most important things we can do. I talk about this a lot that, in the olden days, if we wanted to have dinner, we had to go chop down a tree, make firewood, build a fire, go kill an animal, check to kill it and cook it. Now we get hungry, call 1-800 DoorDash, we have a hamburger at our front door. And because of that, we're not exercising anymore. It's amazing here in Jerusalem, I don't have a car, and I walk everywhere. And so it's easier for me to stay in shape. When I was in America, people drive everywhere. Of course, I wasn't in New York City, but people drive everywhere. When I was in LA, I had to go to the shul, and I was 2 blocks away, and I was going to give a talk at the shul, and my host said, "Oh, do you want me to drive you?" I'm like, "The shul's 2 blocks away. What do you mean drive me?" He goes, "Oh, we always drive to the shul." I'm like, "It's 2 blocks. I walk 2 miles to go to shul, to come here." And because of that, we lose the natural ability to be happy. Because our body God gave us free drugs. It's called dopamine, melatonin, serotonin. These things make us happy. And if we don't exercise, they don't get created in our brain. This is why when you don't exercise and start to gain weight, you start this flywheel of eating more to make yourself happy because you feel bad about yourself, and you get heavy and you get overweight. People that are extremely overweight aren't more hungry than you. It's emotional. They're not happy with themselves. And so they eat as a crutch. They eat to compensate for their unhappiness. They don't need more food than you. It's not like they're exercising more and climbing Mount Everest or running marathons. In fact, they're doing less than you because they can't do anything. They can't walk up the stairs. I have an acquaintance who's huge. I mean, he's so unhealthy. He has a struggle walking. It's an emotional issue. And when you exercise, especially running, you're producing free drugs. And they make you happy. And I'm going to end with this. This is the last strategy to really protect your happiness and help with your low self-esteem. It's to pray. But you have to have clarity in how to pray. I know many people go to the shul and they pick up the art scroll, or they go to a shul and they see the man on the stage with a big robe, and you're not praying to the man, you're not praying to a book. Have clarity on who you're praying to. And so what I do is I have an acronym. And the acronym is REPEAT. Why? Because prayer is something you can do any time of the day, as many times as you want. You can pray all day long if you want to. You can repeat, repeat, repeat. But you first have to take out the 2 E's. One is your envy, and one is your ego. That's REPEAT as an acronym, R-E-P-E-A-T. It's an acronym. You take out 2 E's. One is envy, because you cannot pray to God when you're envious of somebody else. It means God made a mistake. I should have that car. I should have that house. I should have that girlfriend. It means you're envious. You're not happy with what you have in life. And it means God made a mistake. And you can't pray to God with clarity when you have envy. And the second E is ego. Ego means that you control the world. I was in my early 20s, and I was a coin dealer. And I was successful pretty quickly, and I got an ego. I started to get a little arrogant, and someone said to me, Daniel, because that's my name, they go, "You're pretty arrogant." I'm like, "I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to be known as an arrogant guy." And I quickly stopped being arrogant. And I eventually came to the realization that God gave me gifts. God gave me a gift to see coins better than other people. God gave me a gift to negotiate coins with other people. God gave me a gift that maybe not everyone has. I like to say God wrote us a check at birth. He wrote, "You won for 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. Each of us have a check. And your job in life is to cash that check. You never go to a bank with a $5,000 check and say, just give me $4,000, keep the change. That seems insane. And when you don't reach your potential in life, that's exactly what you were doing. You want to reach your potential in life. And so I started thinking to myself, you know what? I'm a good coin dealer. I know that. But it's not me. It's just the gifts that God gave me that I'm using. I'm using this. Not everyone has the same skill as me on coins. But maybe I don't have the same skill as you on, on science, or same skill as you as math. But I have skills, and each of us has skills. And we want to maximize those skills. And so we take out the envy and the ego. Ego means I'm in charge of everything. God has nothing to do with it. Ego stands for, as an acronym, exiting God out. And when you have ego, you cannot pray with clarity. Because in life, especially in relationships, your ego is not your amigo. It's not. Ego is not your friend. It causes the downfall of many of us. Especially, a lot of divorces are caused because of egos. And so you take out the two E's, envy and ego, you're left with 4 letters, RPAT. The R stands for recognize. Who am I praying to? Not the art scroll, not the prayer book, not the man on the stage, not the wall, not the guy like this. Wherever it is, I'm praying to God, Hashem. That's recognize. Number 2 is to praise him. Praise him is not thanking. Praise him is recognizing all the things he can do. My wife recently was at a dentist. And, she was at an eye appointment. And she was tell the woman, oh, thank God or something. She goes, what do you think? My wife prayed for her eyes to be better. And the woman said, you should be praying for bigger things, like the return of the hostages, for the war to end. She goes, don't pray for little things like that. And my wife said, God can do anything. He's unlimited. He can cure cancer, and he can put a penny in our pocket. He can stop your mosquito bite from itching, and he can save the weather, the climate problem we have. God can do anything. There's nothing that's not too big for him. And that's praising him. He can do anything for us. That's R, P. The A is to ask. Because 6 days a week when we pray, we are asking for something. We're asking for our health, for our family, for a job, for a wife, or a husband. We're asking for something. And if you do not expect for him to give you what you're asking for, you are not being real. Because God is going to answer every single prayer. You might not like the answer. The answer might be no. But he is going to answer you. And if he says no, you have to go back and say, why did he not give me what I wanted? Maybe it's not good for me. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe you did not make enough effort. But he is going to answer you. And the last is T. That stands for thanks. You should be thanking God for everything. You should be thanking, as soon as you ask for something when you're praying, you recognize, you praise him, and you ask, and immediately you say thanks, whether he gives it to you or not. Because he doesn't give it to you, that means it's good for you. If he gives it to you, that means it's good for you. And that will help you to have amazing self-esteem. When you know you're not alone in the world, and God has your back, and you bring in the idea of repeat, you get rid of the envy, you get rid of the ego, recognize, praise, ask, thanks, you'll go on through life having amazing self-esteem. May you all be blessed with an abundant amount of self-esteem and spread that light that's going to shine inside you, and you reflect it back out to the world, and you too will change the world, because the greatest transformation you're going to have in your life is when you believe in yourself as much as God believes in you. Thank you very much.